This time we are going to complete the picture we started to paint of Euron Greyjoy in the other two episodes. If you haven't watched both of these already, I would recommend to pause this video and follow the two links here and here to get yourselves up to speed. For all the viewers who are still with me here, I will give a very brief reminder of the most important points we discussed on the previous episodes. We have said that Euron Greyjoy has been contacted by Bloodraven, who has influenced the course of his life substantially. Euron considers himself the Storm God's chosen champion, and also considers Dany favored by that god. He wants her for this connection to the Storm God and for her dragons. Euron is not Daario, but he has probably found the Storm Crows during his journey all over Essos. He knows that he can't trust Victarion. Alright, that's been quite a lot of information. What we still haven't really discussed, however, is what Euron's plan actually is. If he actually wants Dany, and doesn't simply want to steal a dragon or two, or three for that matter, and if he also knows that Victarion is not to be trusted, and if he's not watching what's going on in Meereen as Daario, we might come to the conclusion that his position is a pretty shitty one. In all likelihood, he could end up losing the Iron Fleet, while gaining neither a dragon nor a bride. And he might not even know about it for months, because reliable information doesn't usually travel very quickly from Essos to Westeros. With his lofty plans shattered, with no Iron Fleet and no Dragon Queen by his side, his kingship would immediately be in jeopardy. Therefore, if we don't want to consider Euron a complete fool, we need to come up with what could be his actual plan. That's the scope of this present video. So, how can we best approach this question? The central problem here is that if Euron isn't Daario and doesn't trust his brother Victarion, and he's also not walking anybody across the sea and half of two continents, which I consider a given, we haven't identified any way Euron has at his disposal to exert any kind of control whatsoever over what's going on there. Or does he? As we have said, while Euron is not Daario, we have reason to believe that Daario could be his man. He might also have other men around Dany. He traveled Essos extensively and might have spies here and there. That said, a reasonable number of spies would never suffice to really control Dany in a meaningful way. So, how can he make sure that things work out in his favor, whatever in his favor might actually mean here? There actually is another way. He doesn't really need to control the situation. He only needs to know that somebody is in control who will make sure that things work out the way Euron wants them to. So, who is in control in Meereen? Not really anybody at this point, we could say. And we wouldn't be wrong, I think. If somebody is at the very end of Dance in control of actual Meereen, it's Barristan Selmy. In control of Dany herself might be Khal Jago. Or he's not, and that's the reason why her storyline ended exactly where it ended in Dance. We don't know. It only says, as the western sky turned the color of a blood bruise, she heard the sound of approaching horses. Dany rose, wiped her hands on her ragged undertunic, and went to stand beside her dragon. That was how Khal Jago found her when 100 mounted warriors emerged from the drifting smoke. Since neither Barristan nor Jago are real candidates to be working towards Euron's goals, they can't be our answer here. There is one person, however, that has been influencing the situation around Dany time and again. Quaithe now is a whole different story. Quaithe is a shadowbinder from Asshai, a place that Euron takes particular pride in having visited. Needless to say, she is into magic as much as he is. While Euron covers only one of his eyes, she covers her whole face with a mask. Furthermore, she speaks the common tongue, something we would not expect from a woman from Asshai. We meet both her and Euron in the company of warlocks. They both exhibit a thorough interest in Dany. These are just a couple of interesting connections, but certainly not enough to base a theory on. It gets a whole lot more interesting, however, if we assume that Quaithe is Shiera Seastar. I will not discuss it at length in this video, but there are many clues pointing to Quaithe being her, and I would estimate that of all the candidates for being Quaithe, Shiera is probably the most popular guess among fans. If we accept that Shiera is Quaithe, the possible connection suddenly becomes quite obvious. The two are connected through Bloodraven. Shiera used to be Bloodraven's lover, who most likely got him into magic to begin with. Then Bloodraven got Euron into magic. Through Bloodraven, Euron might very well have got to know of Quaithe's existence. Later, he visited several places in Essos, one of them being a shy, as he claims. We don't really know if Quaithe speaks for the Shadowbinders as a group in any way, or why she is in Qarth when we meet her. We have no idea if she's working on her own there, but we know that she has a plan for Dany, and that she has the means to keep an eye on her, since the glass candles are burning. And she is most likely using one. Why would she know otherwise? Euron should be at least roughly aware of her plan, either through Bloodraven or through his visit to Asshai. Additionally, he might as well have a glass candle of his own for all we know. So, what is Quaithe's plan for Dany exactly? The first thing she ever says to Dany is, "I am Quaithe of the Shadow. We come seeking dragons." She says we because she comes in the company of Xaro Xhoan Daxos and Pyat Pree. But she might also be hinting that she is speaking not only for herself, but for a whole faction. Her interest in Dany is clearly all about dragons and magic. Asshai has been the center of magic in Planetos for decades, it seems. But that has changed, and the Shadowbinder of all people can't ignore that. Melisandre has experienced this at the Wall. In a POV chapter it says, "She was stronger at the Wall, stronger even than in Asshai." It is her way of saying,
I felt a great disturbance in the Force.
Quaithe probably feels the same way around Dany. Another very important Quaithe quote is the following. She says, "To go north you must go south. To reach the west you must go east. To go forward you must go back. And to touch the light you must pass beneath the shadow." People have tried to argue that going east to go west and going south to go north meant nothing more than going to Qarth to go to Westeros, or some such. That, however, is not convincing at all, since at that point Dany is already in Qarth, and Quaithe is trying to convince her to leave. These words are therefore quite obviously meant as advice for the coming journey, not the one that brought her to Qarth in the first place. The rest of the conversation goes as follows. Asshai, Dany thought. She would have me go to Asshai. "Will Asshai give me an army?" she demanded. "Will there be gold for me in Asshai? Will there be ships? What is there in Asshai that I will not find in Qarth?" "Truth," said the woman in the mask, and bowing, she faded back into the crowd. It's really hard to not come to the conclusion that Quaithe wants Dany to go to Asshai. I think the real question here is not if Quaithe really wants it, but to what end and what will come thereafter. We must not forget that Asshai is not only very far away, but more than that. Even as the crow flies, Asshai is further from Meereen than Westeros is, and of course the journey back would be nearly twice as long. From here, our story becomes surprisingly straightforward and simple. Dany must go to Asshai, or at least near it, and she needs to go to Westeros with her army. Quaithe and Euron are the two people in the world that between them have the means to make sure that Dany gets to Asshai and back to Westeros safely and quickly. There's one more little aspect that I want to elaborate on. It could be that Dany will sail west after she has found whatever she is supposed to find in Asshai. It is also possible that Euron is actually simply working with Quaithe for the benefit of both of them. However, I think that the details are slightly different. I think that Euron is aware of the plan Quaithe's faction has for Dany. He is not her puppet or anything, but simply knows about them from his visits to Asshai and other places in Essos. So, why send the Iron Fleet then? Euron probably knows that Quaithe wants Dany to sail east instead of west to go to Westeros. Usually, that would be a much longer journey than sailing west. However, Euron as well as Quaithe most likely have the magical powers to make such a journey much quicker and safer. Attacking Westeros from the west has a lot of advantages. Nobody's expecting it. It will also be a unique feat that will make people gasp in admiration. And of course, Dany will be able to go ashore in Euron's own territory, which might be most of the western coast by then. Quaithe brings her magic and the knowledge of the lands and seas east of Asshai, while Euron throws in the Iron Fleet, his own magic, and a foothold in Westeros to safely go ashore and consolidate. Euron will either have made a deal with Quaithe already, or he will be looking to do so pretty soon, I think. Now we can answer the usual questions that come up concerning Euron much better. Why does he trust Victarion? He doesn't. How can he expect to really convince Dany to rule beside him? By providing her with assets that only he can provide. How can he hope to control the situation in Meereen from afar? He is either in league with Quaithe, or he is convinced that they share the same goals at this point, and that she is more or less in control. This also sheds new light on Euron telling the Ironborn to sail to Meereen with him. I think that was never the plan. Just a feint meant for Victarion. Had he sent Victarion to Meereen without initially proposing that they all sail there together, Victarion would have felt that Euron only wanted to get rid of him by sending him on a long and perilous journey. His little farce, however, convinced Victarion that Daenerys is Euron's highest priority. He made sure that Victarion would do anything in his power to reach and save Dany, while he himself is able to carve out a kingdom along Westeros' western coast for the two of them to expand once she arrives bringing dragonfire. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, comment, share, and visit the shit out of our blog.